The podcast that you're about to listen to does not care about your emotions, your hypersensitivity, or your political correctness. If you wish to continue, then
shut up and sit down.
What's going on, everybody? Thank you for tuning in. You're listening to the Alpha 5 podcast. I'm Frank, a.k.a. PJ, here with Fabian, Ray, Jonah, and once again, we got Brandon, a.k.a. Fuzzy, in the house on the pod. What is up, fellas?
What's up?
What's up?
It's cracking, cuz.
Man.
What kind of name is Fuzzy?
You don't want to know.
Yo, that's funny because I was gonna wait to ask that question after all of this because I really wanted to know where Fuzzy came from.
Peach Fuzz.
Yeah, he says you don't want to know. Well, okay. Fuzzy Wuzzy.
Yo, Fuzzy, you in Texas, right?
Texas.
Like, how's COVID? Not to bring this shit up because we're all tired of this bullshit, but I'm just curious because isn't that like a hotbed right now and shit? Like, you're like a petri dish, aren't you?
That's what they say. I don't know. I'm breathing fine. My chick's got bad breathing problems. Her lungs are terrible. Like I can't smoke in the house around her. We can't have pets around her. She gets bad. She's been not wearing a mask, doing her thing. We even went to Dallas 2 weeks ago. Like I don't know. But
that's like
we're Republican. We're Republicans, so I don't think COVID affects us like that much.
Oh, that's right. You guys are like immune or something like that.
Is that what Republicans think?
That's cool.
I don't know. I think it says that on the registration card. Like,
must believe COVID is a conspiracy. Check.
Oh shit! Can you imagine if that was like a part of being able to sign up?
Right.
But in all seriousness, no, this is just a complete side note from what we're talking about. I actually went to the barber the other day, and I had to fill out a COVID questionnaire. And before they allowed me into the building, they had to take my temperature, and it was like one of the most awkward situations because the dude just held like a fucking temperature gun to my forehead.
I was about to say, where'd they take your temperature from? How awkward was it?
It really, like, I felt a certain way. So like, what, nigga? I was just out in the sun. It's summertime here. Hi. What if it was a little bit high? What then? What if I didn't just ride with the AC on? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. It's things are very weird. It's really still an adjustment.
See, I think it's definitely a disease, definitely a virus. Do I think it's killed some people? Absolutely. Do I think if some people get it, does it make them really sick? Absolutely. The same way the flu does, salmonella, whatever. You know, some people it's going to affect. I think the numbers are what they say it is. Absolutely not. Like, it's a legit fact right now. If you're on hospice and you're given X amount of days to live and you're found to have COVID, days before, and then you pass of natural causes, your underlying on your death certificate is because of COVID-19, and your numbers get added to the COVID death rate. Like that's fact, that's statistic. And we're just ignoring it, looking at it as, millions of people. And I don't think it is like that.
But
Overhead.
I mean, and it's funny because you have COVID, right? We've been dealing with it for months and we're trying to adjust. And then in the more recent months, we've been dealing with the whole Black Lives Matter movement, right? And what that's been bringing to the table. And like in the immediate now, like you've been having the outcries that's really become just nationwide on the Confederate Monuments and how they should be taken down, which is being included in the Black Lives Matter movement. It seems like it's starting to span into that stuff. So I don't know if you guys were aware, but did you know that there are Confederate monuments all over the country, not just the South, predominantly the South, but all over the fucking country? Because that was news to me.
I didn't know to the extent that there, like, how many there were. I'm surprised in certain states like that are predominantly, like Colorado, Nebraska, Wyoming. I'd see those states appears to have none.
Yeah, but then you go as far as Washington, like the very tip of Washington is in Bellington.
It's a name, right?
Yeah,
Bellingham?
well, that's the city. It's in Bellingham, Washington.
It's a road, though,
It's
right?
a road named after George Pickett, like as high up as Washington. Like that's wild. But then even if you go,
Maine, I think.
right? Yeah, you've got the Jefferson Davis Award to honor Jefferson Davis in Brunswick, Brunswick, Maine. Jesus, like that's crazy, right? Because you think Confederacy, you think South, right? You think the original states and all that shit. Like Washington wasn't even around back then, really, right? Wasn't a state. And Maine, like, weren't you Union, bro?
Yeah. Maybe that guy from up there.
Yeah.
That's something worth researching. But what are your guys' thoughts on it? Let's a quick yes or no. Should Confederate monuments be brought down, in your opinion? Fabe, we'll start with you.
Me?
Yeah. Yes or no, bro? I don't need.
Okay.
We'll get to that.
Okay.
Yes or no?
I'll just say no.
All right. Thank you. Ray?
I'll say yes.
Jonah?
I'm kind of 50-50, like yes, and I don't really care whether.
Pick one, bro. Pick one. Pick one.
Yeah, I guess.
Fuzzy?
Yes.
Okay. I'm up with you, Jonah. I'm 50-50, but I'm gonna go yes also. So Fabian's staying alone on this pod.
Somebody got to do it. Somebody.
Somebody.
Bang, bang.
Not that somebody got to do. I mean, this is what you believe.
Yeah.
Listen,
But
Jonah and I are 50-50 with you, so we'll see where this argument kind of leads.
Yeah.
But being that you are kind of on a mountain by yourself mostly, why do you think that these monuments shouldn't fall?
Well, when I think about stuff like this, I try to think for everybody. For when I think about it, try to think generally for all Americans.
Generally?
No.
I see what you did there.
Even when it comes to the Constitution, you guys know how I feel about that. You know what I mean? I feel like that shouldn't be tampered with. Your rights are your rights, and we can't say one is okay and one somebody's other rights are not okay, and you can't, pick and choose and decide what is right depending on how you feel. So with that being said, we all can understand, right? We all understand that the Confederates were the bad guys in history. All right, they wanted to fight for the institution of slavery. A lot of them, the majority of them, did feel that the North was encroaching on their ability to make money with their free labor, to keep the racist attitude and suppress Black Americans. This is a fact. We all know this. So when I say that I don't want the statues removed, it's not in defense of their ideology. It's because of the fact that, one, although people call them traitors and call them this and that, I mean, technically we're traitors to England and we shouldn't even be here. But they were still Americans.
Hold on a second.
A lot of them fought in previous wars.
Traitors to England because we don't want to be ruled by an unjust king.
I'm just saying traitors in general.
Traitors because we wanted to live free.
So that was their argument. They felt like the Union was just too freaking.
They felt
oppressive.
we were treacherous.
They felt they were treacherous. They felt the equivalency of the king in England with the Union was not turning into that type of corrupt body. So and aggressive body.
So what you're saying is that we felt that we were being enslaved by the English, and we wanted to get our freedom. Is that what you're trying to say?
He's saying that the South.
No. I'm saying that
did.
the South had that mentality. As a matter of fact, if you go to the South, they teach you that the war of northern aggression.
So
Right. So
Jonah's making the comparison.
They felt that they were slaves, and they're trying to get their. Okay, got it. Okay.
So they felt like they were, being oppressed. They call it the War of Northern Aggression, not the Civil War like they do up here. But anyways,
Okay.
that's besides the point. So my thing is that they're still Americans. We obviously all don't agree with the ideology. We all can agree with that, right? What they stood for. There's some people that actually fought in the war that felt they were just defending themselves. Not a lot of them, not the generals, not the higher ups, not the people that actually ran the Confederacy. A lot of just civilians. And
No,
stuff
I
like
know
that.
the privates, the
So-
sergeants, all those.
Sergeants and stuff like that. They just felt like they were just fighting just to defend their home, not necessarily. I mean, even some African Americans. A lot of them were forced to, but some did it out of their own free will to actually fight against the North. So, we'll wrap this up by saying that bad folks don't agree with the ideology. However, it is part of American history. That's the first part that my thing to it, that I think they should be taken out. The second part is that, and this is actually pretty quick. In light of everything that's been going on, when you start taking down statues of history, we've seen this throughout human history, it kind of diminishes, or not everybody. I don't hate to say the way to use it, race, but it tends to try to sweep away the history. If you're against the history that the Confederacy brought, then that's a good reminder of what this country was, and we shouldn't go back down that path again. I don't idolize the statues. A lot of people don't. Maybe they do, but that's on them. That's between each person. I look at it and say, oh, wow, there's actually people that thought this guy was a good man. Really? And that reminds me, okay, that's our history. Do we want to go down that road or do we not? So I think that it's a good reminder. And then once you start doing that, the main thing is that once you start taking down that because of a certain ideology you don't believe in and you think it's wrong and we should take down that statue, then what's to say it's going to stop there? What's to say that, you know what, they're already doing it right now. We're saying Confederacy, all bad, they were the traitors, right? So it's taken down. They're doing it right now with George Washington and Abraham Lincoln. They're facing their statues for whatever reason they felt. Strong, but they're taking statues of people that were actually felt they were pro-capitalist. So the anti-capitalists are actually painting the hammer and sickle signs and stuff on founding fathers. So when does it stop once you say it's okay to start playing with American history? Because I feel like once you start there, although we disagree with it, I feel like you still have a right to be there. Just like I disagree with the Klan and any neo-Nazi out there, but guess what? In this country, you have a right to speak your mind. So I might not agree with it, but once you start saying no to them, then you have to start saying no to any other people. And I feel like that shouldn't be tampered with, regardless of our feelings on it.
So
that's interesting, man, because you're probably one person I've ever came across that thinks that way with regards to the statues, and looking at it as more of a learning lesson as opposed to it being an idolized thing. Like the majority, at least from my opinion, the majority of the people are more like, yo, this guy is the man. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is our history. This is where we are. This is who makes us. You know what I'm saying? So I find your point of view a little interesting because you're literally the only person I know that thinks that way.
And just to touch on it before the next person starts, real quick, Jonah, but that's exactly what you just said is part of the reason why. Somebody looks at it and says, wow, this is part of our history. Shit, some fucked up stuff that happened. But you know what? You can learn from it.
Yeah, but that's not what goes through their mind, though, man.
But not all of them. And there's other people that but I don't look at statues and I don't have false idols. I don't see that and be like, wow, and almost worship it. That's between the individual. But that's not my place to actually say you're able to worship that or not. All I'm saying is that I look at it and I say, okay, I disagree with this dude. Can't believe they actually like this guy. He was an asshole. Okay, but this one over here. But
do you need a monument to do that though?
I mean,
because when you look at most monuments, right, it's not. For example, most of those monuments, I feel pretty confident in saying, are not going to be of generally retreating, for example, right?
Exactly.
It's not going to be of him running, hiding in disarray or, in some kind of chaotic stature, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's literally idolizing him. He's going to be in a prominent, dominant pose, right? A depiction of him as noble as can be.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
How many statues do we have of people that come in second place in championships?
You know what I'm saying? But now, in all fairness, right? According to Britannica.com,
And real quick, before you say that,
sourcing.
Fabian, that whole I think your idea on history and is fine. The thing is, how can you even suggest that a slippery slope type of argument that, oh, if this happens, then this might happen. That's a slippery slope, bro. Just because people start taking that stuff down because they're not representing what America and its values are, the rest is gonna happen. So I don't know, man. I just wanted to point out.
Listen. All right. So to go on that, when it goes, I'm sorry, John. Hold on 1 second.
No, that's good. It's good.
It's just when you, it's not a slippery slope.
It is a slippery slope. No, it's asserting that a proposed relatively small first action will inevitably lead to a chain of related events, resulting in a significant and negative event. How can you say that taking those down is going to lead to something negative, bro? You don't know.
Yeah, no, I do know because when
you don't know.
Yes, I do know that.
No, you don't.
No, because of human nature. When somebody says, "Hey, it's all right for you to do that," so what I believe in, I can do that too.
It's a logical fallacy, bro.
That's a stretch. I don't know, man. That's
bro. Nah, you know what? I don't think Fabian's wrong, man. I feel like Fabian might be right. I feel like if we
and I'm not saying it in an asinine way either. I'm not saying just straight up take off these statues. But go ahead, Jonah.
No, I feel like if we go ahead and start taking down these statues, right, then it's going to be okay. Then somebody's going to say, all right, cool. Well, let's put up this other statue because this means good for our history. You know what I mean? And then now we're going to start picking and choosing what's okay, what's not okay, why we could take this down.
But that was already done. Like people are already choosing what statues to put because they think it's okay.
Yeah, but this is the problem though, because then to you it might be okay. To me it may not be. And now we're just gonna have a back and forth. Now we're just gonna have to you it's okay. Like to some people, like where we're going through right now.
For the statues that they've been putting in your city, do you know of any that they're putting in there? Have you approved it? I'm sure your tax dollars are paying for it.
Right, but what I'm saying is there's certain people right now who are agreeing with the Confederate statues that are out there, right? With General Lee. There's people who agree with that statue going up, and then there's people who are not. Those people who are not will say, all right, let's take it down. Fine, we'll take it down. And then they're going to want a statue for what their beliefs are or what they feel that may be good for the community or for the sake of, society. But then those same people who didn't want the Confederate, General Lee to come down are going to be like, wait, but why is it okay for you to have yours and I can't have mine? So it's gonna be like a back and forth. It's just never going to be okay.
Let me put this out there though.
Right,
so a lot of things revolve around meaning, right, and interpretation, right? In terms of why people want these brought down. Like I've referenced General Lee a couple of times in this. So he's essentially known as the rebel general, right? Everyone knows him as the leader of the Confederate armies. That's what he was, right? But according to Britannica.com, which is what I was going to say before, he was a disbeliever in slavery and in secession. But he was devoutly attached to the republic that his father and kinsmen had helped bring into being, which is why he fought for the South. Right? So I didn't know that. I would have thought that he was about slavery and not, fuck that, you ain't taking my slaves away. Right? So it's easy for someone to look at him and with the side he fought for and make many assumptions without actually knowing who he was and what his actual values were. Right? So it's not really fair in that sense, because a lot of people are going to make those assumptions and want these things brought down for those reasons.
More generalizations, and just because.
Right, but at the same time, though, like part of what I can't help but think about is why were these statues erected in the first place? Because if you look at where most of these monuments, I'm not going to say just statues, monuments, whether it's a road, an actual statue, a plaque, whatever the case may be, are in the South.
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know.
Like John would say it was to, as a fucking middle finger to and reminder to black people.
Yeah, because a lot of those were erected during the Reconstruction period.
Mm-hmm.
So to idolize them.
So that if you know that there's underlying meaning behind it, if you can actually say there's that underlying meaning, maybe it's not something that should be up.
For example, I'm not saying remove General Lee's statues from West Point because I feel like he has a lot to teach to cadets and to the Army. His tactics, his military strategy, his war strategy.
I say not. Listen, if you want to take it down there, you should have it there anywhere else. I mean, if you can't have it one way over here, but oh no, because it's over here, it's in the military academy.
No, that's not true, bro. Now I feel like you're holding a grudge now. Now I can't. I say yes. Forget that, bro. Forget that. We gotta if we're gonna have that, it has to be for the proper reasons, not because of what he believed in reference to his morality, but because of what he's capable of contributing to the benefit of the nation. If his military tactics were that sound and he was able to win battles with less men than the Union, why wouldn't we want to be able to understand how his mind worked in that sense so that we can then teach the students and the cadets that, as opposed to erecting a statue but you just said, PJ, that he didn't believe that, but I'm just giving an example, as opposed to erecting a statue based on his morality and because he thought slavery was okay.
I just found that shit out. I thought that he was like super slavery. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, like, let's go get some more.
It's just it's like, for example, like, why would a country that had been, and this is a different topic a little bit, why would a country that was ran over by Alexander the Great or Genghis Khan, and they're no longer under their rule, still hold and have statues of them in their town, like in their center?
It's apples to oranges, because those were actually foreign invaders.
How?
Those are foreign invaders.
They're still.
Some would argue that Robert E. Lee was a foreign invader to that.
I know, but if you were down there, you would feel like that North was the foreign invader. But
I don't know. I'm down here. In my opinion on it.
Yeah, actually, you know.
Wait. I want to know this because I'm looking at the map right now, bro, and Texas got a lot. Texas got a lot, like a lot.
All right, history lesson. For one, Texas was the only reason Texas was brought into the Confederacy. For one, we did not join the Confederacy until we removed Sam Houston from governor, which at that point, most of the population of Texas actually agreed with the views. We didn't want no part of the Confederacy. We didn't believe in a lot of slavery. You had slave owners in Texas, yes. You had slave owners in the North as well. But it's like modern day. This may be a horrible example, but I'm white. I live in a predominantly white neighborhood, great neighborhood, some wealthy, some middle class. We have a lot of people who are extremely wealthy and they golf. Nobody likes these guys. Who likes golfers? You know what I mean? So in a sense, that was kind of the same back then. The majority of the people didn't like the slave owners. They're like, but at that time, for the period and what people were used to, it wasn't as much of a, let's get out and protest for the rights. It was something that had been brought up. The same with Confederacy. What you had brought up about Robert E. Lee being against slavery, he was. And a lot of people don't realize that. And that was one of the reasons that he fought, was to try and liberate, in a sense. He actually had, and the Union didn't even do this, well, it did in a sense, I guess you could argue, but he was the first general in history to actually offer slaves their freedom if they would fight for the South. And he did have a decent amount of black troops. But Texas they never wanted a part of the Confederacy. The only reason we were brought in because of rich politicians, rich slave owners who got into the politics and was able to remove Sam Houston, which brought us. The only reason Texas were brought in is they wanted our horses and our troops, period. I mean, that's all it was. And that's kind of simple. So,
but y'all got a lot of
interesting piece of history I didn't know about. That's
so, and to be honest, my view on the statues used to be very aligned with what Fabian's saying. However, prime example, what really made me start thinking about it. I came from a place in Oklahoma called Tecumseh, Oklahoma. In the library there, they have this bronze statue of this Indian chief, Tecumseh. I'm Native American, so I can say Indian. John can say nigga. It's just what it happens. But so anyway, this statue.
Where are you from? Tecumseh?
Tecumseh, Oklahoma, and the football team, the school I went to, Tecumseh Savages. but that's still to this day, that's what it is. So the statue, man, like made me really start going back in history and looking at some of the things. And I'm a firm believer in our Constitution, our forefathers, but our last conversation, last podcast, my whole view of we need to try and prove ourselves wrong more than proving each other right. I've actually been doing a lot of research and a lot of study on things myself. And like Thomas Jefferson, for instance, my oldest son is named after Thomas Jefferson. My youngest is named after Andrew Payne. Like that's how inbred I am with this. But Thomas Jefferson had this little 13-year-old black slave that he raped and had tons of kids with and stuff. I never knew that. You know what I mean? I never knew that. So I'm opening my eyes to a lot of stuff as well. My view on the statues now has changed. I think they should come down because of that statue of Tecumseh, looking at that and doing the history and finding out all the bad that he actually did. He raped women. They would raid other tribes and capture the women and take them back and rape them. When they were done, they would like skin them and hide them and leave them in the creek to dry and use their hides for like war stuff, like bags or whatever the hell they wore on the horses. But it's like some of that history. It's to the victor go the spoils. I mean, our history, what we're taught is whoever won wanted us to learn. And that's plain and simple. So from my view on the statues, I don't think they should stand. I don't think any statue should stand. If you go back in history enough and find a statue of anybody you're going to find wrong in their life, I don't think we should idolize people as much as we should idolize the ideas, the movements, and the events that happen.
Oh, I like that.
So,
Yo, you know what's crazy? I mean, I don't want
like that.
I don't want to bring religion into it, but exactly what you said is kind of why I don't believe in the whole Jesus thing. I'd rather believe in his ideology versus the actual person.
Right.
I mean,
But I digress.
Y'all did not expect that from the white Texas boy, did you?
I liked it though.
But that's the thing. You can't idolize them. I see them as pieces of history and or artwork, regardless if we dislike it or not. There's tons of that everywhere. I mean, I feel like right now there's a lot of people on the other side of the world that are tearing down churches, mosques, temples because of their opposing religion, because it's afflicted. They feel like they're the enemy. They felt like they shouldn't be erected because of differentiating religious views. It's just as simple as that. And I feel like once you start doing that, it just now if because tomorrow, I mean not say tomorrow, but 50 years from now, right? The majority of Americans could say, all of a sudden it just turns into like a Nazi state, right? You know if that ever happens, I highly doubt it. But say that did happen. Now, we should freaking tear down anything that has to do with Black folks, Latino folks, whatever it is. So the tide can change with what people believe in. So that's why I feel like just don't touch anything. Let it be. Recognize that people did believe that. People did believe that. I agree with this. I don't agree with that. Whatever it is, but recognize it as history. And that's the reason why. Idolizing is just
throughout history. Alexander the Great, Hitler, Caesar. When they invaded places, they tore down their statues and stuff for a reason. They wanted to reprogram, if you will, the citizens into what they wanted them to believe in. You erase the history, you can rebuild the history how you want it. So.
See,
I guess
which could be good or bad. Which could be good or bad, but
yeah. But here's the thing, and our buddy Phil touched on this. The way our society works, right, is on majority. That's the way our everything works, is on majority, right? So you're worried about a slippery slope, and how one thing is gonna lead to another. But if majority of the people are having an issue, right, then maybe that's because there's an issue.
Not necessarily. I mean, I see what you're saying. But it's just the right thing to do. We'll go with the majority. But when it comes to situations like this,
if you were telling me that you were going to take them out of the history books, now it's a completely different conversation to me, and I'm saying that no, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, I agree.
You know what I'm saying? Like that.
So
That's
what
a
if we're not
completely
taking them
different
out of the
conversation.
history books, but we're completely changing who they were?
You're taking, if you're talking about just taking the idolization away, right? Then I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Well,
because I do agree with Fabian. Like no, you don't delete history. You should not delete history. And so
No.
much of our history has been deleted. I found shows on Netflix that I didn't know existed that talk about our deleted history. Right. And I'm not saying that whatever those shows are saying is necessarily 100% fact, but it's shit that I didn't know at all. You know what I'm saying? But if you look at any time in history, right, when a ruthless leader, let's say, fell, right, what happened to their monuments?
They were destroyed.
Yeah, they were taken down.
In majority.
Look at what we did
of
in
them.
Iraq. Took down Saddam Hussein's thing, bro.
Real quick, we took it down. On top
Yep.
of that, we took it down. The people didn't take it down.
Yeah.
So is it better to erase the history and the existence of somebody like that, or is it better to have a chance for them to stand throughout history and who they were be changed?
I think they stand throughout history. I don't think it has to do with erasing history, but it's removing the monuments that represented what they ruled for.
Remove the idolization.
But here's my thing. I think, I mean,
he'd take his shit down too.
That's what I'm saying. Christopher Columbus, he wasn't erased in history, but he was completely changed for the man who he was. And now, I mean, you're taught in school that he discovered America. The dude never touched foot on American soil. Right? You know what I mean? It's like, is it better at that point to have something last and have the chance and possibility throughout history if somebody gets a hold of being able to have the power to be able to change or rewrite history or who somebody was versus just erasing that person altogether, I guess.
But it automatically changes when you idolize, though. That's the thing, because the idolization creates an image, right? If you look at some statues, you'd be like, damn, he must have been a great guy. He must to have a statue in general that creates that perception. Go to Madame Tussauds and look at anybody's wax figure. You're like, holy shit, that guy must be important. He got a wax figure at Madame Tussauds, let alone a fucking monument or a park or a school named after you.
Yo, did Kevin Spacey ever have a wax monument thing? Because dude turned out to be pedophile.
I think he did. I think they took it down.
Yeah,
that's what ends up happening. You do some fucked up shit, then take your shit down.
Well, listen,
Madame Tussauds got their shit together.
Well, first off, I want to touch on the thing that you said before, PJ, about the majority obviously deciding something that if they say it's a problem, chances are it's a problem. Or if they say this is okay, then this is okay. I agree with that, but then I get to the point where, okay, well, they also thought in ancient Greece that, pedophilia was okay, and the majority thought that was completely normal culture. But we look at that back now, okay, that's pretty effed up. But the majority still thought that this was okay. So I don't always go by that concept, because the masses decide this is okay, so it should be okay. Second thing is that when it comes to the history part of it,
but that way, in my defense, I'm saying that's how our countries run, though. That's how our countries run.
I know. So that's why you got to kind of speak up for the silent majority, regardless if you disagree with them or not.
But you can't choose it. You can't pick and choose what you want the foundation of what our country is run on, though.
See, that's where we differ, though, on that. I don't think that, for one, I don't think these statues are put in place because of the men who they were. Robert E. Lee didn't get it because of what he stood for. These things got put into place. Everybody get your tinfoil hat on, because there's an ancient elitist cabal idea that has been driven. Whether you want to say it's been the same families throughout years, there's still been an idea.
Conspiracy, you're talking about the Rothschilds.
Well, there's been an idea of this elitism that's been driven for a long time, and a lot of these. But look at Washington D.C. You can't go on any street corner there and not find something Masonic. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of these people had very, very Masonic ties. So they're just saying, where there's smoke, there's usually fire, and when all of these things start adding up.
So my thing on that is I don't think keep the statue. If it's up to the individual if they want to idolize it or not. Oh, because you're gonna idolize this, I'm gonna take it down. That's almost like freaking babysitting. Like I'm trying to be like a teacher. No, we can't have that because you're gonna look at it. No, we're all individuals. I look at a statue, I'm like, oh wow, it's pretty cool. It's a pretty decent artwork. I don't idolize nobody. Only person I idolize is Jesus Christ.
If you're saying it's artwork, why are you saying it's history?
Okay, so you were taught to idolize Jesus Christ. Right. So you had a figure. You had a teaching to learn to idolize.
I
Right?
don't
And
idolize.
I'm not questioning the belief, but you idolize. Yes, you idolize Jesus
But it's not
Christ.
because of statues. It's because of what is read in the book. Because of the book.
Right.
And what I
So
believe.
right. So now
I don't look at a statue.
if
of
there's
him
a
and be like,
book, that's talking about, look at our history books now. Christopher Columbus was a great man. He founded America. He didn't rape, he didn't pillage, he didn't destroy thousands and millions of lives. No.
difference is his man.
He sat
I don't
down.
idolize that man.
Right, because you were taught that Jesus is not a man.
Exactly. I don't idolize no man. Regardless if they do good things or not. I mean, just man is
You're-
man and they're fallible. So that's just my
You're-
opinion on it.
But you're missing my point. But this is what you were taught to follow, right? So if these kids are seeing these statues, oh, Daddy, who was that? Oh, that was General Lee. He was such and such, great, this, and that. Guess what's going to happen for those kids? They're going to grow up idolizing that person. As an adult, you may say you don't idolize no man, but as a kid or as somebody who may not know better or as somebody who's getting a twisted story, yeah, you will idolize. The same way you were taught to idolize what you read in that book.
Not if you teach it right. I mean, I see what you're saying. But if you
Define
see-
right then,
if-
though.
if-
Define
if-
right, because
if
that's a matter
you
of
see
perspective.
If you see a statue, right?
That's a super matter of
Oh,
perspective.
everybody thought this guy was good, but guess what? You can actually read in the book that he did this, this, and this. Oh, and he did this and this.
The
and make your own
whole Civil
determination.
War was founded on what one side thought was right versus the other.
Exactly.
That was the whole fight to begin with. So you can't tell me that it depends on what is right, because our versions of right can be different. So
Exactly. But that's what that's what I just said. You look at all the sides, look what he did, look what he didn't do, and make your own determination on who he was as an individual.
But why do you need a monument to do so?
Because
That still doesn't answer that question, because the history books should be able to tell you that.
They should, but I don't need a monument to do so. But hey, it's a reminder: who is
Well,
this person?
we
What did he
count
do?
on the history books to tell us that, but most of the time they don't give us the correct history.
Yeah, and that's
Right.
something in itself. So, like,
Right.
at least,
So
hey,
if we're
this
not
is a
getting the
reminder.
correct, if we're not getting the correct history from our history books, and then we have
we have no
that-
monuments or have no
and-
statues symbolizing anything. So where are we gonna?
What do
we're
our
not even gonna
monuments
be
symbolize?
smart.
Tell me what the
not
monuments
symbolizing.
normally symbolize. Tell me what they normally symbolize.
It was
You
art.
mentioned
To my
that.
understanding, it was
No.
art.
No,
but,
that
but,
was.
But what do they normally symbolize? What do they normally
Actually,
depict?
no, that was actually wrong choice of words. It was what they represent. Sorry, whatever that individual is, who he was.
What do they normally represent? If you're showing a Confederate general standing there, nice, well dressed with his cane, just looking off into the yonder, what is that telling me about our history? Nothing. The plaque at the base of it is going to tell me everything, and what the plaque tells me is what I'm then going to follow. Not
Sure,
this
no,
motherfucker standing there.
Not necessarily.
Or standing there depicting him leading an army.
Not
It's
necessarily.
true. It's true, though.
Because
It's
not all of them
true.
have a lot of information. They could just say
Exactly.
blah 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 blah. Robert E. Lee.
That's what he's saying.
from
That's what he's saying.
1964
So then
to
what
whatever.
are they
That's what he's
teaching me?
saying.
That's my point. What are
That's
these
what he's
monuments
saying.
teaching me?
No, dude, listen, you're not understanding. They're not obviously teaching you something specifically because they're just showing you basic information.
So then what do we need
They
them
can just
for?
show you
But the
things.
thing is,
So then what do we need them
you're
for?
saying that they're history, Fabian. The thing is, you're
Yes.
saying they're
The
history.
people that made them are history. They're a part of history.
That
Now, if
nobody's
you want-
telling,
it-
nobody's saying to
obviously,
remove
it's-
them from history, though.
I
Nobody's saying
get
to
that.
remove these people from history.
But guess what?
And who
Those
it is that they were, nobody's saying remove them from history.
let me put it to you this way, right? Let me put it to you this way. Structures, tangible objects hold the test of time, right?
No.
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 Listen to me. They might not be completely the same as when they fucking went up. It might be a little disfigured after a couple centuries. But guess what? Check this out. Listen to this. How many times have we gone to dig sites, right, and dig up archaeological stuff in the pyramids, and they found freaking I don't know,
Pottery
in
and-
Greek
and
pottery and Colosseum, right?
Tutankhamun
You find
and shit.
shit.
Yeah.
You find shit. You find a statue. You find a freaking freaking pillar or something like that, right? Do we necessarily find books intact? Do we necessarily find information necessarily? Not all
Yes.
the time. but we do
Wait,
find
is it-
Bro,
we
you,
find
you-
pieces here.
how
Isn't
is
that what the Bible's
Bible was
based on?
found, bro?
Whoa,
I get it.
whoa.
I get that, but it's
That's
one of the
another topic.
that's one of those things that tested tested time. Shit, fuck you guys. What's what I was gonna say? But anyways,
It was bullshit. It's fine.
Well,
if you see oh my god, you guys are messing me up right now. I hate all of you right now.
so I think what Gaming's trying to say. I hear
You know
what
what
he's saying. Like I said, I used to have the same belief. Coming from somebody who has played Civilization with Gaming for several years, he's a warmonger, and he's built statues in my cities several times.
Oh wow!
So, but what I think he's getting at is, and I understand, but the history written in books and things like that, they can't stand the test of time versus sometimes a statue. However, and I could agree that there are some times when statues are necessary. It may, so instead of tearing statues down, instead of replacing these, what if we replace the plaques? What if we replace the history and the knowledge that's left behind in those plaques? You know, to
Okay.
give somebody a real history of what that
Okay.
person is versus what we're being told he is by whoever has it in their
It's a-
best interest for him to be that way.
Mm-hmm.
That would be that I can agree would
Yeah.
be more more in line with
Fathomable,
things.
right?
But I guess what I really get stuck on though is that it is the depiction of these monuments. But like when you look at a painting, right? The painting, especially if it's of a famous battle, right, is usually meant to favor one side or the other. Right? It's meant to set a sense of imagery and give you a sense of what happened in that.
Yeah.
Right? So when you look at a monument of a person that is standing there, standing confidently, right? And that depiction means something. And then when you look at the underlying reasoning that you know it was erected for, that leaves a bad taste. You know what I mean?
I've got the perfect example for this. Okay, so I believe what you're saying is simply why are they depicted the way they are? Is so why would we not have somebody who owned slaves that lynched slaves? Why would we not have a statue of them lynching slaves versus them sitting there all happy and smiling and go lucky? You know, and I think it's because it's easier to swallow certain amounts of history. For example, perfect example. As guys, we know nothing about the woman's menstrual cycle. Growing up watching commercials, it would have us believe it's a great time. They're out there bouncing around, doing parachuting and stuff. And then we go out on a date and you're like, we're not even parachuting. You're acting like a bitch because they don't have ranch, you know? And so but it's easier to swallow. It makes it easier to kind of take in. It's not so brutal in your face of this guy was, he cut some people's heads off. He was raping women. He was lynching these people. You know,
yesterday, actually last night, I was watching the history an episode in this fucking shit. Damn, I wish I knew the name of it if I remembered it. It was about World.
Is it
War
America's
II.
Book of Secrets or something like that?
Something similar to that.
I think I've seen.
The first episode was about World War II, and it was talking about really how like Hitler and Japan were doing their thing before the U.S. got involved in the war. They were fucking people
Yeah.
up, like hard. So it's funny though how although Hitler was helping to make Germany this fucking hell of a country and take over the world, well, Europe, right? He wanted everything. But the only thing that you actually know about him, that at least I feel like I knew about him, I'll use me as an example because I feel like I'm more average on history, was everything with the Jews. was the
Right.
genocide that he was responsible for. That's
Bro,
the
he was on
majority
the-
of.
He was an
That's
He was
art
the
Man
major.
of
majority
the
of.
Year on Times Magazine. He won the Nobel Peace Prize.
Yeah,
He,
he was an art major.
I know
Yeah.
that he killed millions of Jews and that he
Well, see-
believed
And
in
he
the
used,
superior race.
and he understood how to use music to control the masses too.
That's very correct. Very, very accurate.
So
And the thing is,
But-
too, is most people think they would have you believe in the history books and the way things went that World War II and the Holocaust happened, Hitler coming into power happened in a matter of like a few years.
no,
That motherfucker was going on for like 30 years before he took power. He was getting in
Yeah.
there with the, as Fabian would say, that slithering tongue. He was talking in there, getting them like, hey,
Slytherin.
But
vote for me.
yet-
He was planting his seeds long before.
Yeah.
he was responsible for one of the biggest expansions that country ever had,
So,
and a real dark part of history, right?
mhm.
But one of the biggest
Absolutely.
expansions in a country aspect, right? Yet, are there any monuments to him
Thanks.
in
Thanks,
any fashion?
DJ.
In any fashion?
So isn't there some monuments of him somewhere? Like, I mean, I don't know. I'm not.
Nope.
There
Real
probably
wax?
are.
What's it called?
No, there probably are, but they're hidden because you're not allowed to show
what-
anything Nazi memorabilia in Germany right now. It's
What's
punishable.
it called? Is it what?
No, that's true. It's true.
Weren't there monuments of Stalin taken down also?
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Like you said, the Nazi would that be considered Nazi memorabilia? There's like some federal law they can't display any.
Yeah, you can.
Like,
They probably do
It's-
have it somewhere. I'm
So-
pretty sure, like some museum or something.
We
That
can't
begs
even
the
display
question. Begs the
other
question
country
right now.
memorabilia.
Like if it's illegal to display Nazi memorabilia and it's illegal for statues and stuff, how are people going to know about the Holocaust in 200 years?
Could
Through the history books, right?
could Confederate monuments be considered
So
slavery memorabilia?
So we're basically going off the assumption that the history books will last the test of time, and hopefully they don't erase it or try to get rid of it. Because I tell you, another thing that they did was literally burn books.
Yeah, I know.
Burn books.
I know. And
Literally
the
burn books.
Library of Alexandria too.
So now we're just hoping that the future is going to be told by the history books and nothing's going to be changed, and hopefully they'll learn. But we're just definitely not going to have a
So-
statue, and we're going to hope the history books. Now, if you lose that and you lose the statues and you lose the freaking history books, then what do you
Bro,
got?
I really want I want a reason to be like, hey, I get what you're saying, but your arguments suck. Because if this fucking monument, if this monument says here stands General Lee,
Exactly.
Confederate,
General.
whatever, right?
During 1960,
And that's all it
whatever.
says. Who gives a fuck?
What a great man that was. I want to be just like that
Damn.
man on the horse.
All that anyone's gonna say is, "Damn, he must have been some shit because they made a statue for this guy."
man? I want to be like him.
Not necessarily.
Who? The books are gone. The statue says shit. Who's gonna know a damn thing, bro?
Well, I guess nobody's going to know anything then, right?
So then,
If
he's a
that's
great
what you're
guy.
saying,
So then,
if that's what you're saying.
So then, what does it matter if the books burn? Because ain't nobody gonna know a damn thing
I'm
except
just-
whatever they end up making up at the end of the day.
Unless they have a plaque on the bottom that actually is showing something that has some information other than just the name.
Oh, we can hope.
If
Fuzzy,
there's
we
a
need
plaque,
to get your
right.
we need to get your shit going. But like I
Doubt.
said, if Nazi memorabilia,
I'm running for
Right.
office too, by the way, in a few years. I'm not sure which office, but I'm gonna run for something.
do it.
Alright.
I'm a vote for whatever.
Whatever. I don't know what it's gonna be yet.
If fuck, if
I
it's
hereby
not-
identify as the governor of Texas.
Oh shit! Now we got a problem. If Nazi memorabilia, right, is illegal and because of the Holocaust, right? Why aren't Confederate monuments and Confederate things considered memorabilia for slavery?
Okay, well,
and equally
so,
as illegal in this country? Because we're worried about another country and their shit. We can't even address slavery and our shit.
I
That's
think
kind of fucked up.
I think a lot of people also get confused. So first, somebody from the South. Again, I spoke my view on the Confederacy earlier. I was born in Oklahoma, but I'm a Texan, and a lot of people don't see everything about the Confederacy. Like Gaming said earlier, it was not just about slavery. That was absolutely an integrated part of their society because they had been
That
around for
was a main
generations.
staple, bro.
But not for all. That was the main staple for the rich landowners who owned slaves, who were the industrialists at the time, if you will. But not for the average person. You know, that just it wasn't the case. The main reason they fought was, like he said, to kind of fight. They seen the Union as encroaching on their territory, the freedom that they had fought for. They seen that as them encroaching on that and that idea. They seen it as the imperial crown in a sense, and they thought it was going to bring back what we had originally fought for in the Revolutionary War.
Yeah. So, real quick, because this was something that I wanted to share with you guys that I don't think I was able to the other day. But speaking on this topic and the slavery and that we weren't able to follow through or whatever. What did you just say, PJ? That we couldn't resolve those issues? Special Fields Order 15 was written by General William Tecumseh Sherman. And that was the general order that granted the 40 acres and a mule to the families. And I don't know if you know, but Abraham Lincoln had approved that. But Andrew Johnson, when he came in, he basically issued out a proclamation that took that land away and gave it back away to the non-freed slaves.
The only reason Texas was brought into the Confederacy is because they were losing massive amounts of troops and their horses weren't trained enough. We had so much cattle ranching and so many cowboys used to running it. They needed that. I mean, if you look out through history, Texas has been the leading role in American history for a long time. Juneteenth, for example, would not exist had it not be for Texas. The only reason for Juneteenth is because that was the day that Texas was notified that the slavery had abolished an end. So, I mean, I think there's a reason
why. Party.
Yeah, y'all didn't get the memo.
I was just saying.
But we rejoiced it. That's why it's so important. It's because Texas rejoiced it. They were happy. They were happy the war was done because we never wanted part of the Confederacy in the first place. They were just as happy as slaves were. That's the point. And I think if they look through history and they look through the books where it was originally celebrated, it was a Texas holiday at one time. We looked at that as the end for the war for Texas, not just the end of slavery, but for the end of the war altogether that we didn't want to be a part of.
But if you look at one of the main reasons for the Civil War and almost anywhere, it was because of the disagreement over the institution of slavery. It was considered a institution.
No, we all know that.
You could argue the same point that the main disagreement between Democrats and Republicans today, that Republicans want babies to be able to live and Democrats don't. I mean, if you go throughout history and write it how you want to, you can argue and focus on one point all you want to, but it had a lot to do with taxes and land and
history shouldn't be written how anybody wants it.
I agree.
It should be written how it actually has been. But like, all right, you even let's say you get away from the Confederacy for a minute and all that hoopla. Even if you go,
we did in 1863.
I'm not talking about just Texas, you Texan, damn cowboy.
Hey, can't help it. I'll go get my cowboy hat.
Even if you look at stuff like what's happening with the NFL right now, I do too, actually. Fuzzy, mission.
Yeah.
You need to get us all cowboy hats, bro.
I can get them.
We'll send you our sizes.
I've got like 5 or 6.
No, I don't want your sweaty ass cowboy hat. I want a fresh one, bro. I'm gonna send you my size. And
first off, all my hats
and
fresh.
the boots with the spurs.
If you look at what's happening even like in the NFL, right, with the Redskins, actually in MLB with the Braves, right, they're going through some backlash in terms of rebranding their name, changing their name.
Wow, wow.
The Redskins have been getting it for a long ass time. There we go. The Redskins have been getting it for a long ass time. The Braves, as soon as like the Black Lives Matter movement like came up and shit like that, they all of a sudden were like, yo, like we should do this on our own before someone comes yell at us. And they're about to change their names finally. Like, I mean, you talking about a genocide?
I didn't know the Braves were changing their names too.
Yeah. They're considering it. They haven't there's nothing official out
there,
there, but
I understand.
They're doing that like what the Redskins are doing and doing an internal review. I think they're wording it. But like, is that
Sorry,
right?
ladies, I'm taken.
Mm-hmm. Like, you guys think that that professional football teams should be forced to change their names based on this?
If we're going that far, then we have to do nationwide shit.
We gotta do
Everything's gotta be
Blackhawks too?
changed. Yeah, tobacco can't be red band tobacco no more. My old high school can't be the Savages. Elizabeth Warren can't say she's Indian. Like, we got to start from the bottom and go all the way up. We
Hey,
got to clear
listen,
everything.
Fabian and my high school was the Crusaders. Like, speckled past, I think.
Slippery slope.
Look at that.
I ain't ready to prove it.
This guy.
I already. It's what all y'all are saying.
But all right, let me ask you a question though. Is that like to you, Fabe? Is that really a bad thing though? If you start acknowledging the fucked up shit, is that really that bad of a thing?
Well, here's the thing. It's determines who determines it's fucked up, right? We are saying right now it's probably fucked up, right? But I'm just saying, when you start saying that it'll change over time, then the masses can think something that we think is really fucked up now is okay later on. And we got to go with it because the masses think that it's okay to change this and we should change it. So it just changes with the opinions and the morality of people over time. There's no absolute. So that's why I feel like if you don't touch it, don't touch it. Leave it alone, regardless. And just leave it the way it is, and we make our own determinations.
So, but all right, but if you have
The thing is, change is the only constant in this freaking thing that we call life.
Oh, Ray's getting philosophical.
Okay,
change is the only constant. Change is the only constant. You said there's no absolute. You're right. Things are always changing.
Yeah, and that's why I can't base. That's why I feel like if we constantly change, so just because everybody, the masses,
but we
say
are
that this is right.
Changing.
No, I know we are, but just because the masses say that this is okay, doesn't make it not okay. It doesn't make it okay or make it not okay. It's the opinion of a group of people at that given time, and that could change. That can get really fucked up eventually, right? It happened in Germany, and then it went back. Then they went back to normal. Got their shit together, right? So everybody could think at one point in time this is okay and this is morally right, but actually we're all thinking it's morally wrong right now. Just like I said with the Greeks, the pedophilia back in the day, and the shit they used to do in other countries.
Yeah, but look at
ancestry and shit.
Yeah. So that's all I'm saying. So
look at what you're using as your example, though. Like, we're talking
human
about
beings throughout history.
But we're talking about people, and like I don't know. I feel like I would understand your argument a little bit better if you were talking about slavery versus pedophilia, but you're talking about idolization of monuments versus pedophilia, and that's where I get lost in that argument.
Well, no, I'm just saying I'm talking about like what you mentioned before, like actually what Phil mentioned that on the last podcast. We said the majority of people, when they say something is freaking wrong, chances are something's wrong. Not necessarily the case. So. But with that being said, I don't see anything as idolizing. I don't idolize a statue. If other people do, other people do. That's their right and their choice too. But I shouldn't take it down because I feel like they're going to be idolizing it. I don't want them to worship that or whatever it is. That's not my place. Somebody put it up there, whether I disagree with it or not. It is what it is. I disagree with what they stood for.
So somebody touching on that, it's also something to be said about the fact that if we do take this stuff down, if there's nothing but just a little mention of them in the history books, if you tell your kid not to do something, they're going to do it. I feel like as our nation's youth, how our youth acts towards things, if we were to eliminate a lot of these statues, and just have a little mention of them in the history books, who's not to say there's going to be a huge movement in the next 20 to 30 years on the South, and then they'll rise again in the Confederacy and everything like that.
So then maybe we should be as mad about these monuments and fight as hard as we fight for these monuments to be taken down. We should equally fight as hard for our history books to be corrected.
Correct. Absolutely.
Absolutely. I agree with that.
I believe in accuracy. And it should be. Just explain how it is. Both sides, what they stood for, who did what. Don't just explain one. Don't just explain this. Both sides. Let people make their own determination about what they want to believe and what they want to feel.
Well, but then you need correct depiction, I guess would be my rebuttal to that. Like you need correct depiction of these people. For the good and the bad.
But here's the thing, just like you found out right now. You did not know Robert E. Lee was against the freaking slavery and didn't know it, and then I had nothing to do with it. But guess what? we've all learned, oh shit, Robert E. Lee, General of the Confederate Army, you said it yourself. He must have been all for it. Screw black folks, let's hang him as soon as we can.
Yeah,
That's
all
probably
right.
what they thought. So
But
that's what I'm saying.
that still
So-
doesn't mean that I'm gonna be okay with him being depicted as.
Nobody's saying that. I'm just saying, but you're talking about depiction is key, and I agree. But like I said, it's good. You have to get all sides. And right now, we were told one side, and you even said it yourself, just until now.
Would you be okay with the monument of Hitler going up in the middle of Times Square?
No, absolutely not. Because
Why
he was
not?
because he was an enemy of the country as a whole. He was a
Would-
foreign enemy.
I can just understand that argument.
So
But was he? Because 73% of the nation, America, supported Hitler 12 years before the Holocaust.
Yeah, because of the unity he brought to the country and shit like that, brought him out of a bad period and stuff like that. Then he started talking all that crazy stuff with the freaking with the master racist stuff from the Jews a little bit
So if
later
they've
on.
eliminated all the Hitler,
that's not even why we got in it. That's not even why we got in World War II.
I know.
We're trying to stay the fuck out of World War II.
I know.
My question is, if we've
So,
eliminated
what
all
are
the
you so mad for?
statues of Hitler-
Because you're making it sound like him talking about the master race is why we got involved in
No, I didn't.
fucking him up. That's
No, I was
how
just talking.
took what you said.
I was just adding on to what Fuzzy was talking about.
So let me ask you this then: since we've eliminated all the statues of Hitler, when we were learning the history books what we learn of him, how much of a probability does everyone feel that Hitler could be no more than Trump? Let me clarify what I mean by that is that he was for his country and trying to build up his country. Then he had a system from within that was actually setting up the concentration camps and doing the things they were doing and fight against him through Congress, if you will, and enacting a lot of the laws that were enacted in Germany. And they wanted to blame it on someone else. They used him as a fall guy. Could we all agree that we could see that going on today if something in the history books in 60, 70 years, if the history books were a complete like left-ran type of book, the history was taught by a left-ran type of media or idealism?
It's all dependent on who wants to tell the story.
Yeah.
So yeah,
To the victor go the spoils.
I mean, yeah. I don't know. Part of me wants to side a little bit with.
I'm gonna get some like death threats or something. All that I just said, that's gonna get me in trouble somewhere.
I want to agree with Fabian like to a degree, but I can't bring myself over that hump because I don't. Jonah,
Listen, it's tough. If you would ask me this probably 15
Jonah
years
been quiet.
I would have been
Yeah,
like,
right?
Work.
He's been taking it in. That's why. See, I've been doing a lot of talking, so I'm wondering is like hearing the argument where if it's swayed him one side or another.
Yeah, since you were a 50-50 guy.
Nah, man, I still think that we should take them shits down.
I guess it's
No, because I'm still like, I really don't care whether or not, but if I have to make a decision, take them down, man. Fuck it.
why. Like why do you go to that side?
Fuck, what the fuck we need them shits for? To be quite honest, like there's a fucking history book.
Yeah, I agree with Jonah on that, man. I mean, to the extent, we need to focus on making sure the history is accurate, but there's no reason to idolize any one person for anything.
Nah, there's no reason for it. There's a fucking history book. This is why we have fucking history class.
All right.
So learn about history.
Fabian got one. I'm put this down.
Yay.
Fuzzy said we don't need to idolize any one person and any man in history. Right.
It's true.
So all right. So if we're going to follow that logic, then the Lincoln Monument comes down too.
Take that shit down.
No, I'm just saying we shouldn't have. I don't idolize, and you should. Other people don't idolize. It's up to them.
No,
they want to idolize. They can. It's up to them.
No, what I'm saying. I'm trying to agree with you.
Yeah.
Like Dan, the guy don't even let me agree.
Take Mount Rushmore down.
Fuzzy's statement
right.
was we shouldn't idolize any man for anything.
Sit their noses from their
So
face.
That's
equally as we're talking, we've gone on and on with General Lee statues, and there's who's the other one? Fuck. There's
Mount
a lot of
Rushmore.
no Stonewall Jackson. There's a
Jackson.
lot of him
USS
too,
Grant.
right?
USS Grant.
So if we're gonna take them down, like people go literally to Washington D.C. to see the Lincoln Monument. That becomes just a building then,
Lincoln Memorial.
right? Like, does that become okay for people who are on on that same mindset as Fuzzy and want to take down the Confederate ones? All right, well, you got to take down these other shits too. And like, are you
I
gonna?
want to
be
take them
all right
all
with that?
down. If it has to do with a
Fair.
living, breathing person that bled red blood, take that. Now, if it's some kind of crazy alien that came down and was bleeding blue blood and gave us all kinds of knowledge, by all means, build that motherfucker a statue. Any other way,
Word, that kind of,
You know-
I agree with that, yo.
Yeah, I actually can see that too. Although I will say, Fuzzy, people hearing how you talk, that means that you're talking about taking down Kobe's monument. I don't
Take it
know.
down.
They're gonna get
Take
that.
it down.
That
No,
oh,
he's-
shit.
Kobe Bryant.
Yeah.
Take that shit down.
Oh shit, nigga. Oh,
Damn. That was
listen.
good.
100%. Take it
Yo,
down. We don't need
take
to
it
idolize
down.
anybody. We already
The fuck?
idolize people enough. Like this big joke about all these celebrities running for president. You know, the sad reality is that if a lot of them ran, they would have a running chance.
They would
We
have a
idolize
fighting chance.
celebrities and sports like athletes and stuff like
Mhm.
that more than we do people that actually matter. You know, well, why can't we idolize teachers, certain doctors, certain law
That's
enforcement, firefighters, paramedics? You know, the people that are making a difference. We should idolize those people instead of somebody that can just run faster than everybody else, or got an 81-inch vertical leap, or got a big dunk. I mean, all right, bet. I don't want a statue of Nicki Minaj, but we can statue that ass. Just put it up there in bronze. But other than that, I mean, we shouldn't idolize.
Oh my God.
That's good.
So
That's a good way to.
I don't know, but I feel like, all right, we're ending it there on putting a bronze statue of Nicki Minaj's ass.
Yo,
Ladies and
let's-
gentlemen,
Let's
you've been
fucking
listening.
what's that shit called? GoFundMe that shit, man. Let's make it
Yeah.
happen.
Don't tell me that shit. I'm down. I'm down.
You've been listening to the Alpha 5 podcast. I'm Frank, aka PJ, with Fabian, Jonah, Fuzzy, and Ray. Remember to catch us on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, TikTok, Instagram, all that good shit, man. At Alpha 5 Podcast. Peace.
Peace.
Peace.